that all life comes from what? Oh, no, not the monkeys. Before monkeys. So scientists say that all life comes from water, CO2. That's what all the scientists say, that the starting point of life is water, because water has a lot of molecules. And one of the first things that happened was that, they say the water and then the sun, and then you start having what? A lot of life. And one of the first forms of life was what? Microscopical bacteria. You know. So if you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys know this, right? It's biology. So one thing interesting about the Bible is that it says right here that God was moving upon what? Upon the waters already. So why the waters? Huh? He was moving already everything that was going to be made, and it started with water. So the scientists, it took them what? How many years for them to realize that, oh wait, life started from the water. But yet in the Bible, it tells us that life, that God was already moving through the water. And God said, let there be light, and there was light, right? And then, of course, when light, we can put many things. For example, the light of what's something that we see outside every day? The sun, right? So there's light of the sun. And what does the sun give? Not only does it keeps us warm, but it gives life as well. Life and water. So it starts to grow everything. And then later on, God says that He called the night day and the moon. So that's a good one. Oh, yeah, she wasn't here. Of course. I'm all like, yes. Okay, espérate, give me 1 second. Yeah. Before we move on. Melissa, right? What was her name? Melissa, huh? Melissa? Melissa. I know. I'm going to tell Easter, man. Esther always see Jaden and Melissa, man. Esther. I know. Alice. But that's a good one. We can learn a lot from that. So in the beginning of everything, God created. Okay. So, you have your verse, huh? Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me go. And like I said, I put on the notes every single one of you guys' verse so we can later on look at them back. Revelation chapter 14, right? Okay. Verse 6 and 7. Chapter 14, verse 6 and 7. All right. In the fountains of the waters. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of the heavens, having everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell upon the earth, and every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with loud voice, Fear the God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made the heavens and the earth and the sea and the foundations of the water. Hey, you know what? That's a good one. It's talking about the foundations of the water. We were just talking in the beginning with Melissa about God moving in the waters, right? And now we're talking about in Revelation, the end book, and it's talking about what? The waters. You see it because the water, that's where life is. There's a lot of meaning. Later on we'll get into that. But there's a lot of meaning of water, not only physically, but spiritually. For us to come into life as new beings in God, what's one of the first things we got to be? One of the first things that we got to go through and be, like they say, come back to life. We leave the old life. We got to be reborn. And what's one of the things to reborn us, to make us into new life? Baptism. So baptism, water, that's making you life. It's giving you new life. So you see the details. So later on we'll talk about that stuff. But that's a good one. And why you choose it? Yeah. Ye- Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it says right here that the angel, right, is calling upon people, saying in loud voice, "Fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment is come." And that's something that they were talking about in the camp in on Friday, about how close our time is near, and how everything that is going on in the world is making us open our eyes more and making us feel that the end is coming, and we should be prepared. And it's kind of interesting because like for me, when I was young, I never thought I was gonna be 30, much less past 30, because I'm all like, you know what, God is gonna come by that time. I don't have to worry about a lot of things. But the sad thing is that, God actually doesn't move because we decide or because you decide. It's because when He decides. So time still passes by, still giving other people the opportunity to come to Him. Not only the lost ones, but the ones that are still haven't been found. And the thing is, like, for us that we're looking at everything, we're like, wow, well, when is the end gonna come, right? But I feel that, with things going on every day, it's kind of like a warning, and hopefully some people can realize and come to God, because there's a lot of people. One of the things that the pastor said on Friday was that there's a lot of people that are they used to go to church, they no longer go to church. There's a lot of family members that used to come to church, they don't come anymore, and they have they have gone lost in other ways. And when things get rough and things start getting more dangerous, when things start changing, a lot of them are gonna want to come back. And but would it be too late? Would it be too will God still accept them? Because now they're gonna want to look for God because of the pain and because they're afraid, and God doesn't want us to look for Him just because we're afraid. God wants us to look for Him because we want His love more than anything. So that's a good one. That's a really good one. All right. So I put that on the notes, and like I said, I've been putting every single one in the notes. So later on, when that time comes, we'll come in and review it. Besides, somebody else, I think everybody, right? Hermana, sí, también usted, ya participó, ¿verdad? Okay. So everybody, right? Nobody so far. Okay. Yeah, Ethan, yeah, he got it. He's good. So Ethan got it. All right. Chalino, yeah, okay. All right then. So no excuses. So today, we're going to change a little bit of the topic. Today we're going to talk about how could anger be used in a good way or in a bad way. And what I say in a good way or in a bad way means that we all get angry, right? We all get angry. Sometimes we get angry for small things, big things, but sometimes we need to use good anger for good things, and that's a lot of the times that we don't put for those details. What's one thing that we can use anger for that is good? Something very simple. Somebody said justice over there, right? So the anger of doing something that is justice. If you see somebody that is selling food, right? I'm pretty sure everybody has seen somebody selling food on the street, right? And if somebody passes by and knocks their food out, and you're passing by, will you get angry because of that? Will you get angry because it's unjust what that person did that knocked their food out? So is that good anger or bad anger? You see? And what do, right? If that person leaves and you go and you help out the other person, if you're right there or something. So there's one example of good anger, because you see you see something unjust, so it makes you wanna like do something about it. Now, of course, with the world that we live in, people are full of anger, and they don't have good judgment. Sometimes they overreact. I found in statistics saying that for every I think it was every 16 hours, that passes by, somebody gets into a road rage and uses a firearm or shoots somebody. So that means that if somebody, how many of you guys have been driving? Well, not you guys drive, but I don't know how many of you guys been in the car, and your parents and your parents, somebody gets mad from the other car. All of us have seen that, right? Especially the ones that of us drive, because a lot of us still drive. So imagine if that person gets so mad at you and they put a gun, they try to shoot you. Well, believe it or not, but that happens almost once every 16 hours here in the U.S. So that's very common. Why is that so common? Why is a lot of people so angry? So much anger. And as time passes by, we see that it's getting worse. And everywhere you go, I mean, everywhere you go, people have like anger. And a lot of them, they don't even know why you're carrying it, And as much as one tries to be positive, sometimes that could affect you. That could ruin your day. So let's go to Proverbs. We're going to talk a little bit about anger today. And it's going to be Proverbs chapter 26. I'm going to read verse 21. Do you guys have it? Okay. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 21. As coals are burning, coals and the wood to the fire, so is a contagious man to kindle a strife. As coals are burning, coals and wood to fire, so is a contagious man to kindle to strife. In another translation, it says, a quarrelsome person starts a fight as easily as hot embers light charcoal or fire lights wood. So what is it talking right here in verse 21? That somebody that likes to fight, that somebody that likes to get angry, it's like a fire or a charcoal that lights up pretty quick. How many of you guys know people that get angry fast? Almost everybody should know at least somebody that gets angry fast, because it's something normal, right? It's something normal that we all deal with. And sometimes with that person, you don't want to start something because you know that right away they're gonna get mad, right? As growing up, a lot of us, we all know that there is that person that is, that uncle that is really mean. Sometimes he's always mad, and sometimes we don't want to get close to him because we were like, oh, he's gonna get mad. And so I remember growing up, we had an uncle who was kind of mad too, he always used to get mad, especially when we used to have birthday parties. And he would be like, no running, no shouting, no jumping, no going to the street, any little thing. So we all used to avoid him, we used to avoid him. And so because it was something that we always grew up like, oh man, that person gets mad right away. So, but as time passes by, he kind of makes sense. No running was because why? Because we can hurt each other. No running to the street was because there was cars, right? There was cars that can hit you. So there was a reason why he was always used to tell us that, but it was for our own good. But as we were growing up, sometimes we don't see that, Sometimes we think that, oh, they're just angry. And like the verse was saying, it's like an amber and like a charcoal that lights up pretty quick. A person that is always angry. So now let's go to Psalms. We're going to go to chapter 46. chapter 46. We're going to read verse 8 to 11. You guys ready? Come behold the works of the Lord. What desolation has he had made in the earth. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He break the bow and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burned the chariot in fire. The chariot in fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen, and I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. So, when we get angry, we were saying, right? Because we all experienced that. Now let's turn the table to us when we get angry. So when we get angry, what's one of the reasons that we act sometimes? Or what are some of the things that we do? For example, we say things that we're not supposed to, right? When we get angry. That's one of the first things that we do. Some people don't even have the opportunity. They start getting violent, you know. They don't even say nothing. They start rushing people. I've seen that. So, but most of us, you know, well, I feel like most of us at least start with getting louder, right? Saying things that we're not supposed to. I mean, and why do we act like that? Why do we say things like that? Depends on the situation, right? It could be depends if you see something. Most of us, like, remember when I was telling you guys that a lot of us get angry because we see unjust things that are injustice. So that's one example. But let's be honest, most of the times we don't get angry because of that. We get angry because of somebody's fault, because somebody made us angry, somebody said something, or somebody did something to us. So that's most of the time why we get angry. And when that happens, sometimes we're trying to find a refuge in between us. And a refuge means that we're trying to find a way to relieve that anger and express it in a way. So right here in the verse, it says that, you know, let the Lord be our what? A refuge, right? He made the wars. He sees the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burned the chariots in fire. So God is saying that he has done all things. He does things like burn the chariots on fire, break the bow. He's doing all these things, and at the same time, he's being exalted in the nations for our own sake. But how do you feel when you get angry? Do you feel like burning chariots in fire? It's a metaphor, right? Do you feel like sometimes breaking something? Like it says right here, he breaks the bow. Don't you feel like breaking something? Hey, some people break things when they get mad. Do you feel like making wars with everybody? With anybody making wars? So there's a lot of things that happen. But this is the good anger that God is telling us right here. He's saying that he will be our refuge. But sometimes we want to do what God wants to do. And this is a verse that I wanted to put you guys, because right here it shows what we want to do. But yet, when we're angry, it says right here, be still and know that I am God, and I will be exalted among the heathen, and I'll be exalted in the earth. When you're angry, are you still? I don't know about you, but most of us, when you get angry, you don't get like this, right? You're not still. You're moving, you're running, you're doing something. You know, I don't think I've never seen somebody get angry and just be like this still. Like it doesn't. That's, you know, most of the time it's not. You're trying to do something. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Do you want God to be your refuge? Yeah. Well, God cannot be a refuge if we have not the good anger. We have bad anger in ourselves. If we try to do things that we're not supposed to, God cannot be a refuge. God cannot dwell in a heart that is what? That is full of hate and hatred. And I know that it's one of the things that, do you guys remember when we were talking one time about Joseph? And how Joseph had a reason. He had a reason to be angry with his brothers. And we were talking about how his brother sold him to slavery, and for almost 20 years he was away from his family. How much anger do you think he could have it could have grown upon him? A lot, a lot. I mean, they took him away from his dad. I mean, he was accused of something that he didn't do. I mean, back then slavery was no joke. Was really bad. So he went through a lot, and he had so much anger. But at the same time, he didn't let that stop him from looking or seeking the Lord, because when things came, he always tried to put God first. When do you guys remember Potiphar, when he put him in charge of his house? Potiphar thought, well, we're from all the gods. Do you get all these power, all these good luck? He's all like, I don't. I just get it from one true God, and he's the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. But the Potiphar didn't understand that. He's all like, no, in Egypt we have many gods. Which are from all the gods? Like, no, only one God. So whatever Joseph did, he put God first. But it's because he could only do that if his heart wasn't full of what? Of anger. And then when he saw his brothers, and he was in a position of power, he was the second in command, he was the second most powerful person in Egypt. Did he try to kill his brothers? Or did he try to put them to slave? So he could have done a lot of things to them. And his brothers pretty much came. It didn't even recognize him. His brothers pretty much came and try to buy. What was it? They were trying to buy the food, because there was a famine, but they were trying to buy their salvation with silver. They're like, oh, they came to Egypt to buy food. So they were in a position of being vulnerable, but yet Joseph, he tried to what? He helped them out. So that's just one example. A lot of things. What things can anger do? So now let's go to Ezekiel 36:26. Sorry, 36:26. Actually, you know what? Let's go to Proverbs 19:19. Sorry, let's try that one first. Yes. So Proverbs 19:19. You guys are ready? It says, a man of great wrath shall suffer punishment, for it thou deliver him, yet thou must do it again. And in Spanish it says, el gran ira llevará la pena, y si usa de violencias, añadiría nuevos males. So what is it saying right here? That a man that has what? A lot of anger is going to be and suffer. And yet he keep doing it, he's going to add what? More violence, more bad things. So somebody that has a lot of anger, it's in suffering. They have a lot of hate inside of him, but he doesn't suffer. And when he acts like that, what's going on? He's adding more bad to his heart. He's adding more bad actions. And that is true because you see somebody that gets mad easily, they're constantly doing things that are not good, or they're constantly doing things that make people want to get away from them. They don't want to be with them, or always getting into trouble. So the Proverbs is telling us that somebody like that cannot live a godly life. They cannot live a peaceful life because they're constantly doing evil things with that anger. And then let's go to Proverbs 26:21. We're right there already. Only a couple of pages. That's the first one that we read, right? Okay. So let's go to James then. Yeah, that's the front that we read. Let's go to James. Sorry. James chapter 1, verse 19. We're going to read 19 and 20. You guys are ready? James chapter 1, verse 19 and 20. For whoever, my beloved brother, let every man be swift to anger, swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of a man work not the righteousness of God. Whoever, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. So what is he saying right here? That it says that when we're trying to live in a godly life, we should be what? Swift to hear. We should hear, right? We should speak slowly. And slowly to anger. Do you guys remember when we were talking about how we become adults? Remember? We were talking about immaturity. What's one of the things that I told you guys when we were talking about that? How can you tell that you're being a mature person when you're growing as a mature person? When you start listening. Yeah. And when you start closing your mouth, right? When people are speaking, when you're learning things. Because somebody that hasn't learned how to be quiet and listen turns to be what? Immature sometimes. And I know there's people that are they just like talking a lot, which is, I've seen that, especially on kids. And that's sometimes because they want to ask questions and learn. But one of the things that starts happening is that for you to learn something, sometimes you got to listen and hear. And then one of the things it says right here, it says what? To slow to wrath. Slow, what's wrath means, right? Getting anger. So when somebody is listening and is good at hearing things, he's also going to be what? He's going to be slow to get angry, get mad. That's part of the maturity. And not only is that maturity in the physical, like you're growing up, but even the spiritual way as well. And that's for everybody. That's not just for like young people. That's for everybody. Old, young, old people. We all have to grow up, mature in God's spirit, and our spirit keep maturing. Because if we can be 50 or 60 years old, but if we're not mature in the word of God, we're not going to get that far. So we need constant maturity. And then it says, for the wrath of the man work not the righteousness of God. A man that is constantly in wrath cannot do justice in God. And that's what we were talking in the beginning, right? Somebody that has a lot of anger, always getting mad, cannot what? Cannot walk right with God. Because they're constantly doing evil things or they're constantly causing problems. But somebody that wants to be with God, they're letting God be his what? His refuge, like we were talking in Psalms, remember? Let God be your refuge. Let God break the things in your life that are holding you. Let God burn those evil chariots, those things that are making you feel pain. Let God be a refuge in your heart. And don't let your heart fill with anger and you try to break the bow and you try to be the one that burns wars, the one that starts wars and the one that tries to burn things. Because that's not going to lead to a refuge. That's going to lead to unrighteousness walk with the Lord. And that's one of the things that we could all learn. And that doesn't stop. That's something that every single day we got to deal with. Because every day we're dealing with emotions. We're emotional creatures. We are God made us with a lot of emotions. And all of our behavior is based on emotions, mostly all of it. You know, when you're after this, when you're hungry, you know, I can tell you, what do you want to eat? Oh, I feel like eating pizza today. But maybe he doesn't feel like eating pizza. Maybe he wants to eat hamburger, you know. Because I'm feeling this way, he may not feel the same way. But by emotions, I'm deciding, right? And sometimes we got to use our brain as well. But most of the time, we go for what? For what makes us feel good, a lot of our emotions. So that's why God gives us a lot of examples, and it tells us a lot to be careful with our emotions. And like I was saying, what's one of the most strongest emotions that we have as human beings? It's anger. Anger, that's one of the one that we have. And anger can lead to do drastic things in our life. Things that are people, I've read stories where people have done things because of anger and there's no turning back. You know, people have done very terrible things, maybe sad things that are not, you cannot fix them anymore, things that are not fixable. And a lot of them are, you know, in jail because of that. A lot of them are in jail. Some of them don't even make it to jail because they did things that were unfixable, things that cannot easily be fixed. And a lot of them, they regret it. And they're like, well, I did it out of anger. I did it out of frustration. But a lot of them, they had no guidance. They had no somebody to tell them. And that's one thing that is wonderful about being a Christian, that we have God and his word. It's always telling us where should we keep ourselves, like they say, in check. Because we always need to be ourselves in check. Because if not, we're going to end up, like they say, we're going to end up straying away from God's grace and his path that he has for us, for each one of us. And that's why one of the things that the pastor was saying on Friday in the camp was that you see a lot of anger in the Middle East, a lot of anger, a lot of hate, a lot of expression. And it's kind of sad because, you know, one group of people have been raised to feel so much anger for another group of people since they were born. So how you expect that people to be at peace if things don't go their way? It's impossible. So the only way they have to do is just start getting angry and anger and anger. And now we have so much. They have so much anger that they don't know what to do with it. And what do? When the opportunity arises, they start violent things. They start doing things that are violent. And because other people encourages them, they can't stop. And that's one thing. Not only because we see it in TV, but because I've been there. I talked to a lot of people when I was over there, and a lot of them I try to get from two points of views, and when I try to talk to the Jewish people, the way they express themselves, you know, they say that they try to help them out. They try to give them everything from so many years, and then I hear the other side and the Palestinians, and they're always saying that it's always the other side's fault, and they always speak with anger. They're always angry. They never look at the other view. They always anger because they think Israel is the big bully, but it's not like that. I've been there. It's not like that. But right now, everybody says that it is. So that's where you need to be careful too with your hearts, what you hear, because a lot of people are saying a lot of anger things. And if you're not careful, that anger is going to transmit. And it's crazy because if you look at the world, they're not Mexicans, they're not Americans, they're a completely different group of people. They don't even believe a lot of what we believe, but a lot of people, for some reason, they care about it, and they think like they feel their pain, and it's crazy because there's nothing in the world that causes so much reaction like the Middle East. And that's amazing. That's crazy and amazing at the same time, because there's people that are not even religious and they feel so much emotion over things over there, and it's crazy. But we must understand that it's not just any people that we're dealing with, because we're dealing with God's people, the people of Israel. So the world is always shaking when things happen in that side of the world. But for us, we got to be careful not to let that anger control us, right? So they're throwing anger at the world, so we got to reflect it, and we got to use it as in a positive way, and don't let anger consume us. Because as we can see, look, a lot of things could happen. So let God give us strength and wisdom so we could keep our eyes and our ears open for the truth, and don't let our heart be full with so much hate towards other people. Because it could happen to any one of us for any reason. So there's a lot of, like they say, there's a lot of hate in the air right now. Let's keep our hearts with love and compassion. Amen? Amen. Okay. Any questions? You guys are good? Okay. Well, let's stand up and pray then. Lord, I pray, Lord, that today you open our hearts, Lord, that you give us the strength that we need from you. I pray, Lord, that you don't let all this hate that is happening in the world consume us, consume our heart. None of this hate, Lord, should